Postpartum came and I just was chronically constipated for the first month. I just felt like my mood felt blah, like all the time. I ate like things that I thought were healthy. So that is the traditional Chinese medicine approach to postpartum. She talked about how postpartum was supposed to be about like warm soups and stews and things like that. And I was like, some people want their redemption birth. I'm like, I want my redemption postpartum for the next one. I filled a deep freezer with a bunch of like soups and oatmeals and things like that ready to go. My digestion was better. I had no constipation issues. My mood was better. And I just felt like every time I ate, I was being like wrapped in this like warm hug. And I was just like, like I'm wearing a diaper, my boobs are leaking, but like, it's gonna be okay. Like everything just felt brighter.
Hello, ladies. Welcome to the Pain-Free Birth Podcast. Today, I am interviewing Holly Stein, the creator of Mama Meals, as you may know her on Instagram. Holly today is going to be sharing with us about a little tidbits about her amazing births and how she started Mama Meals and what you can do as a pregnant woman preparing for birth to have the most thriving, energized, healthy postpartum experience you can possibly have, and how much nutrition and how you prepare for this period really plays a role, because we want you thriving, not just in pregnancy and birth, but in the postpartum as well. So welcome to the show, Holly.
Yay, thanks for having me. I'm excited. I listened to a lot of your podcasts through my last pregnancy, so it's fun to be here.
I love it. Yeah, this is one of those Instagram friends now, like meeting for the first time. We love each other's work. We cheer each other on. And so it's like one of those, yes, come on my show. Let's introduce our audiences to each other. She has so much valuable information. I'm really excited for this one. Tell us a little bit about like how you got started and what Mama Meals is. What is it?
Yeah. So I had got pregnant with my first in 2016, and I was already pretty well down the rabbit hole of just like wellness and nutrition and that kind of stuff. So I knew that I wanted to choose an out-of-hospital birth situation. So we landed on a birth center. I had a midwife. I had a doula. I did hypnobabies. I was so well-researched for the pregnancy, the birth. Like I knew what to do for birth. And then postpartum, I didn't do any research, but it wasn't because I thought I'm good, I'll be fine. I didn't know that I needed to do that. So had a wonderful pregnancy, had a great birth. And then postpartum came and I just was chronically constipated for the first month. I just felt like my mood felt blah, like all the time. And I just thought, well, yeah, this is like postpartum. Like I ate like things that I thought were healthy for postpartum, like raw salads, cold smoothies. People brought well-intentioned junk food. And I was like, well, I just had like a posterior baby. And so I deserve this. And I did not feel good. So, but I just thought that was normal. Like that's what postpartum is. So fast forward maybe about like 6 or 7 months, postpartum, I was at a little baby moms meetup type thing. And this girl was talking about the book, The First 40 Days. So that is the traditional Chinese medicine approach to postpartum. And it is a must read if you were pregnant. And so she talked about how postpartum was supposed to be about like warm soups and stews and things like that. And I was like, okay. I'm like, well, I'm going to get some people want their redemption birth. I'm like, I want my redemption postpartum for the next one. So in 2019, I got pregnant with my second, and she came in 2020, and I bought the book. I read it. I pulled all these recipes. I filled a deep freezer with a bunch of like soups and oatmeals and things like that ready to go. And then when she was born, my husband just defrosted, reheated, and then brought it up to me in bed. And it was such an easier postpartum. Even though I had, like a 4-year-old, almost 4-year-old, like running around the house, but I just felt like my digestion was better. I had no constipation issues. My mood was better. And I just felt like every time I ate, I was being like wrapped in this like warm hug. And I was just like, like I'm wearing a diaper, my boobs are leaking, but like, it's going to be okay. Like everything just felt brighter. So after that, I had a friend or an acquaintance reach out to me looking for a postpartum doula because she was struggling. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to cook you some food and just drop it on your doorstep. And she's like, sure. that would be great if you're like willing to do that. And she's like, I'll Venmo you. I'm like, honestly, like, don't even Venmo me. Like, I feel like the feelings that I'm getting to like cook and bring you this food, knowing how monumental it was for me. Like, that's like literally all I need right now. Like, I just feel so happy to do this. And she texted me, it was like, she like loved it and she was so appreciative and she felt so good. And I cooked for a few other friends having their second and third babies instead of getting them gifts. And they had like the same experiences that I did. So I told my husband when my daughter was about 1, I was like, we are starting this business. And he's like, we don't know anything about the food industry or, you know, like how to even do this. I'm like, it's fine. We'll just figure it out. Like, we'll just figure it out as we go. So I just created a menu on Canva. And then I had like a website that just said like, you know, website coming soon, click here. I made an Instagram and like very quickly it just like took off. And here we are now, almost 3 years later.
When did you launch Mama Meals?
So that was November of 2021.
Amazing. That's like close to when I launched too. It was 20. Yeah. Okay. It was actually like I finished my course right when COVID hit well, that would be 2020. Yes. And then it really didn't take off though until like end of 2020, 2021. Okay. So a little bit, you were a little bit after me, but I just love hearing those origin stories of female-owned businesses and just women who are like going for it. Like I didn't have business experience. I didn't probably like you just saw a need and you met it. Like, here's a problem. I have a solution. Let's go.
Exactly.
I love that. What have you seen as some of the most impactful changes or principles that women can follow to have a positive postpartum experience?
Yeah, I think the main thing is really preparing for it and not leaving it up to chance. And I think it's something that needs to be like thought about and prepared for just as much as your birth plan or how you're going to tackle pregnancy. So things like, nutrition is one of them. So diet, I would stick to like warm, soft, easy to digest foods like soups, stews, oatmeals, porridges, things like that. And try to avoid like cold, like raw veggies, things like that in the beginning, because your digestion kind of shuts down during birth and you have to like restoke that digestive fire. So all of like the warm things, adding like a lot of healthy fats and a lot of protein is going to be really good for you. So even just like, you know, if you're having a bowl of oatmeal and just like stirring like a little bit of like ghee, into it will, do like wonders for everybody. So there is the nutrition then
now also, that recommendation is probably so counterculture for so many women who were brought up in a diet culture, told eat low fat, you know, and avoid butter, avoid, you know, oils or all these things. Can you speak to that a little bit? Like, how important or necessary is it to get fats?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I'm like a recovered calorie counter and low fat diet culture.
Yes.
And so fortunately,
many of us are. It's like you got to get that thinking out of your head because it will not help you in motherhood and this whole journey.
Oh my gosh, not at all. So fortunately, I had already gotten through that stage like well before I ever got pregnant with my first. But like healthy saturated fats, like your brain needs those to function. It needs it for cholesterol. Like cholesterol is a part of every cell. So I know like we're like scared of cholesterol and I'm not going to speak to like what the right numbers are for everybody, but we do need cholesterol to like for our brain to function. And protein, we have all this like, you know, albeit good trauma. There's a lot of trauma from like going through the birth, your placenta has detached, you're like healing this wound inside your body. Like you need a lot of protein, you need the amino acids, like you need like these really high quality, like high densely caloric foods to like repair the tissue and like sustain you. You're not sleeping well. You're likely probably breastfeeding, which is taking a toll on your body too. So you need like even more nutrition than you did even so when you're pregnant, because now this baby's like on the outside and you're like creating like however many ounces of milk per day.
Like the nutritional requirements are actually greater in the postpartum, I believe, right? Than when you're pregnant.
Yeah.
As far as even just the calories you need to sustain breastfeeding.
Yeah, I have so many, there's a mom from my daughter's preschool who she's like talking about, you know, her like low milk supply and my lactation brownies have been like wonders for her. I'm like, yeah, but I'm like, is it just because you're eating more calories? Like, it's not like, are you eating enough? And she's like, I don't think I'm eating enough. I'm like, step one, eat more food.
Yes. Oh, that right there. Like, if I could clip one thing, it would be that for postpartum mamas, eat more food.
Yeah.
Do not count calories. This is not the time to diet.
Yes. And I know, like, I don't know, I grew up in the 90s and with the magazines and like me, I'm as anybody else, like, I'm just as guilty of like the wanting to like bounce back and the fit in the jeans and things. And now is not the time. It's not the time.
Yeah.
Like, there will be a time. Your time will come.
Yes. And I would argue that you'll actually feel better and lose weight faster when you give your body the nutrition it needs, because it will have the fuel to burn to actually sustain your energy and properly burn off all that fat, that maybe the baby fat or whatever it is. Like when your energy center in your body is actually working rather than starving.
Yeah, 100%. I've seen so many stories of people who they like couldn't lose weight and then they started eating more and then actually lost weight.
Yes, because when your body goes into that survival mode, like it just holds on.
Yeah, it's like, I'm not letting go.
Like, no, we need this to survive. We're in hibernation mode, like we're depleted, and you don't want to be in depletion in the postpartum. I just remember being like ravenously hungry all the time when I was postpartum and having to like change my mindset of like, I need to eat more fat, more protein, and more frequently, or else I am like ravished. Like it actually really was surprising to me, because no one really warned me like how much more calories I would need in the postpartum. And I remember thinking, I am hungrier now than I am when I was pregnant. Yes.
I did not expect that with my first. I went to lunch with a friend and like 3 months and she didn't have any kids. And I was like, just like eating. And I was almost like embarrassed. Like, how did I consume that much food just now? Like I did. Yes. But then I look forward to it with the second and the third, because I'm like, I enjoy being able to like eat so much.
Enjoy it. Yes, enjoy it, ladies. Like you're feeding yourself and your baby. And it's like you're creating those building blocks. Yeah. And like back to your point about fats, like not only do you need it for your brain, but you're growing your baby's brain. Like if you're breastfeeding, that's their only source of food, and their brain grows tremendously in the first year of life. Yeah. And it's all from your breast milk. So how much more of that healthy fat do you need, and those highly dense, nutritious foods to create another human's organs and brain and muscle, and like they're growing all from you. It's kind of
do it for the baby. Do it for the baby.
Like if there was a time to say, I'm not eating for one, I'm eating for two, it's when you're postpartum. Yeah. I feel like, but how often do you hear women like use that as an excuse for eating crappy, like eating just junk food? And like I hear that a lot, especially in pregnancy, and I'm like,
pregnancy, like I'm eating for two. I'm like, well, you're not eating for two adults, and you know, it's a little bit different, but like getting like nutrient, I would say, as long as you're eating nutrient dense foods, like your body will regulate its hunger more when it, you know, when you're eating like my kids are like, oh, I'm hungry. I'm like, I'm hungry for something sweet. I'm like, if you're hungry, there's some like carrots and peanut butter. And they're like, oh, I'm not hungry for that. I'm like, well, you're not hungry. But just focusing on like the really like nutrient dense foods, like all the processed junk, it's like people in a lab have created it. It's designed to make you like want to eat more of it. So you're never going to be like nourished and getting like the nutrients that you need from it. So you're going to constantly want to just keep eating that. But I mean, I'm like the queen of like creating a better option of all the foods that I want. Like I love tacos and pizza and enchiladas and all those things. And I mean, I do like to cook, but I just find better ways to make those things. And like you cook using like tallow or butter, or trying to buy like grass-fed meats and organic produce when possible. But even if you can't afford organic or grass-fed, those still whole foods are still going to be better than the processed.
Absolutely. Junk. What are some of what would be like your top 3 to 5 recommendations for women can do, or maybe swaps, or like things to prioritize if they're on a budget or they can't afford like massive lifestyle changes or all organic groceries? Like where does someone start if they're just like, I want to feel better in the postpartum? Where can I start, Holly?
Yeah, I definitely eggs. I mean, eggs are pretty affordable and those are like a perfect like power pack. There's healthy fats, there's protein in them, and you can put eggs on anything and it becomes breakfast. Or even like you can mix it. We have a rice pudding that we sell, or even like oatmeal, and I would tell my husband when he heated it up, he would just like crack an egg in there and just like whisk it in so you didn't even like know that it was in there. Rice, and we do like a lot of like rice porridges. So it's called kanji. So it's like a really overhydrated rice. It's from traditional Chinese medicine. So it's like more like a porridgey type rice. And you can throw like whatever veggies you have, whatever like meat you have, whatever scraps, that you kind of just everything goes in there. But I would say like eggs, probably like a high quality like ghee or butter would be great, just to kind of cook in that, put that on everything. And like meat, really. I mean, meat is medicine.
Protein is the best. I'm a big believer in like steak all the way, baby. Like give me iron, red blood cells. Like it is the nature's superfood. Yeah. Do you get pushback from women who are like, I know we should be vegan, vegetarian, like, what's your opinion? Tell us your controversial opinion here.
I know. So I'm very much, and I've done both. And what I've seen, this is completely anecdotal, but I've seen a lot of people who have switched to a vegan or vegetarian lifestyle, and then they're like, I feel so much better because they've eliminated a lot of like the junk they were eating, but then end up not however many years or time period goes by, and they don't feel good, and then they introduce animal products again, and they're like, oh, I feel so much better. So I'm very, like a fan of like Weston A. Price, that whole philosophy. So when people come to us saying like, oh, I'm vegetarian or I'm vegan, I just say like, you know, even like Ayurveda and traditional Chinese medicine both say like, this is your most vulnerable, depleted time of life. And so they even recommend like vegetarians, like to consume animal products during this phase. So even like bone broth, I'm like, if you don't want to like eat like our chili or maybe like our creamy chicken, like we have a lentil stew that we make with bone broth. We have like a khichdi, which is an Ayurvedic dish that we have that has ghee, or our oatmeal has collagen peptides. So you don't feel like you're eating meat, but we believe that this is the most optimal nutrition for you. So if you don't, there is a girl local to me who used to prepare like vegetarian and vegan postpartum food, so I'd recommend them to her. I'm like, I'm sorry, we just don't offer that at the moment, and we really believe in that and getting like the nutrition. And we've had a lot of people who are vegetarian like consume our stuff during postpartum and then go back to either being vegetarian or like, you know what, like I felt so great having bone broth. Maybe I will like keep this in my lifestyle. Like maybe they're not really like into like eating like meat. Like I have a good friend who she just still cannot get on board with eating actual meat, but she's doing like raw milk, eggs, bone broth, collagen, like getting it in other places that she can.
Yeah, that's so important. I love that. What you mentioned Ayurvedic and Eastern medicine. What are some of their principles? Can you explain what that means a little bit to those of us in America or in the West that are not familiar with those principles and ways of thinking?
Yeah, it's crazy because there's a whole other side of this world that this is so normal for. Yeah. And it just is so sad that we don't have that as a part of our like standards here because we need it. So Ayurveda
and
is
they've been doing it for thousands of years.
Yes, like the village shows up. So Ayurveda will tell you they have that's like India's like the most ancient like medicine system. They tell you, so they have three kind of what they call doshas. They're like kind of characteristics. And so Vata is made up of what they say like air and space. And so after you have a baby, you are automatically like Vata inbound. So if you think about it, you have like this giant uterus that's still big. So it's full of like extra air and space. And to pacify your Vata imbalance, they say you need things like the warm, the soups and the stews. They say you need rest. They say you need herbs. So, like herbal teas. I really like the Milk Moon, postpartum, restorative tonic. Like this is Anya, has like really good herbs. So you can get different like herbs that help with postpartum. And then they're really into like, abhyanga, which means like self massage. Like, so like rubbing oil on yourself is like really grounding.
That sounds lovely.
Yeah, I had
Sign me up.
Yeah, I had my husband I'm like, I need a foot massage. Like he would like massage my legs like with oil. Like it wasn't like these like big fancy like in-home massages every day. Like it was like something I could do myself just to like rub on. And then traditional Chinese medicine saying a very similar thing in their terms. They're saying that we are deficient in yin energy. So I think everyone knows kind of like the yin and the yang, like that. How those are two things that are out of balance, or you need those two things to be in balance. So where you are yin deficient, and to nourish our yin energy, it's the same thing. It's rest, the warm, the soups and the stews, and things like that. And they're all about like really kind of like confining yourself the first 40 days, which I get cabin fever.
They're more strict on that.
Yes. I kind of feel like there's a bit of a nuance. Like I think around day 4 or so, I'm like, I need to get some vitamin D and sunshine. So like I went out and I put my feet in the grass, and I wasn't up like moving around. Like it was like I came downstairs, I went sit outside for a little bit, and then I went on the couch and I didn't move. So I wasn't bouncing around, but when I felt like I needed some like earthing or vitamin D, I would go outside a little bit.
Yeah.
But
that totally makes sense. How do you feel like how do you incorporate this, say, with like your faith? A lot of our listeners are faith-based or believers. And I know there's probably some people here thinking like, well, that doesn't line up with my religion, or, that sounds Buddhist or Eastern. And sometimes we have a mental block toward those things. Can you help some listeners who might be wondering, like, is this going to contradict with some of my faith-based values?
Yeah, absolutely. No, definitely not. I really like how your course is the same, where you like reference that, and now it's not a conflicting for people who are, faith or not faith-based. But these are just, physical needs. Like if you think about physically, like your body needs to rest. Like our culture is so focused on like rewarding and praising the girl who's back on her Peloton at like 6 weeks postpartum. Like, wow, that's so great. Like, I really think that we just have a culture.
It's a cultural thing, not a religious thing.
Yes. Like our culture is like, well, traditional Chinese medicine would call this yang. Like we are too yang dominant in our country, where it's like we prioritize youth, like Botox, looking young. We prioritize like fast paced things. We prioritize like, just go, when really like we need the opposite of that after birth. And it's really about slowing down. And they say how you take care of yourself in the first 40 days can affect the next 40 years. And so I don't think we're going to ever have like legit studies to like be able to show that. But,
but they basically place such an importance on postpartum care, slowing down, warm foods, and we just don't do that. You're right. In our culture, it's very fast paced. American culture is very progress driven, masculine energy, results, goal oriented. And that can feel very different than what your body actually needs in the postpartum.
And I feel like there is like the rise of the feminine energy coming back, which I love.
I'm seeing that too. It's such I think it's a balance that's needed, because we've been so, driven in and focused on, like you said, the masculine or the yang energy, and holding a place for the feminine. And that means different things to different people. But for me, it just means like, this is the way God created my body. Like, this is my core energy. And this is what feels good to me. And I have permission to slow down, to relax, to sink in, whether that's in birth, learning that art of surrender, or whether that's in the postpartum, to truly allow myself to be taken care of and nurtured, and not feel the pressure to get up and bounce back and go right back to work, which so many women feel that pressure, whether externally from those around them or just internally, because our culture has ingrained that in us so strongly that we feel like we're not of value if we're not doing going back to work or being a mom. And like, and I tell my client, every client, I'm like, I don't want you lifting a finger for like 2 weeks minimum, like 40 days preferably.
Okay. I love that you, something you said. So this is my third birth. It took me 3 times to like really like get with the program and rest. Because the first one I didn't either. The second one I ate the right foods but didn't rest enough. And the third one I was maybe like 30 days-ish postpartum, and didn't feel like getting out of bed. I'm like, I just don't feel like getting out of bed. I just want to like lay here. And I was like, oh no, like, am I getting postpartum depression? Is that what this is? I don't want to get out of bed. And I was like, no, I'm content. Like I'm such a human doing. Like I'm such a type A person. Like a lot of women are. Like I'm so like I need to be doing things. And I realized I'm just content just being here and just being. And I've never felt that in my entire life before. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. I don't need to get out of bed. And it took me, don't let it take you 3 births to get to that place. Like,
yes, I love that. And I love that you didn't override your intuition to go back into what might have been a normal pattern for you, to like judge yourself for laying in bed all day and think that you have to produce, which is very normal. Like you talked about, but the fact that you realized that, had that self-awareness, and then let yourself stay in bed. Like, yeah, that's a win. Yeah. For a type A mom, I celebrate you.
Yeah. And and then I had those thoughts too, like, oh, if I'm content doing nothing, is that just me now? Am I always going to be content? Am I just going to be lazy now and never do anything again? Like,
is this who I am now?
Yeah. No, it's not. It's not. It's like people.
Yeah. Why do we make something mean something? Like, I've lost myself. I have to find myself again. It's like, no, you probably will lose yourself. That's part of the process.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
But it's a season. It's not a forever.
Right. Exactly.
I feel like someone needs to hear that right now.
I know that. And that's the thing too, especially like the first time you don't know, you feel like it's forever. Everything is a season.
Yes.
And give yourself permission. Like I want our culture to be to the place where where we're like celebrated for like how long we have rested. Like, oh my gosh, you rested for that long.
Yes.
Wow. Like instead of like the bounce back culture, like bounce back culture is out.
100%. I totally agree with you. And I try to be the one with my clients to like celebrate them for that. Like, no, I will hound you if I see you doing dishes or laundry, and I will celebrate you when I see you laying in bed.
Yes, because that's hard to do.
Yes. I remember my midwife came over for a postpartum check at one point with, I think it was my first, and I hadn't gotten out of bed yet. I hadn't changed. I was probably like a disheveled mess. I was probably stinky, hadn't washed my hair. And she's like, I love that you are in this space right now and you didn't feel the need to clean up or tidy up or take a shower for me. I just love seeing you here like this. And I was like, I didn't even think of that. Thank you. I needed that affirmation.
Yeah. And I think it's hardest for the people who, maybe if you have like a C-section or you have like a some sort of thing that's making you like, oh, I physically cannot get out of bed. But it's harder for the people where you're like, well, I stopped bleeding pretty quickly. Like, okay, I'm feeling good. Like for me, it was like that second 2 weeks. I'm like, I'm done bleeding. I'm like, my energy is coming back. Like, I feel like it's hard to make yourself be like, no, I'm not going to get up. I'm just going to stay here and not do anything that I don't actually have to do.
Yeah, it's like the difference of listening to your body versus like, is this a program running in my head that like, I want to get back mentally, I want to get back to doing. Yeah. But physically, I need to check in and see how my body's feeling, even though I might not be bleeding or I might have a little more energy today, like what feels nurturing to me right now. And so many of us are just not even used to being in tune with our bodies to knowing that. So having principles like this, having this, what we're talking about is like a cultural shift, like shifting away from this do to being, resting, and giving yourself that time because it is just for a season, but it's so vitally important for you, your health, and your baby. Yeah. I love that. Tell us, how was your third birth experience different than your other two? Your birth experience, if you want to share, because I know you took the course and the postpartum.
I know I did. Yeah. So my first birth was great. We had a birth center. I've been very lucky to have very textbook births, all of them. So the first one was great. He was posterior. I was coming up on 42 weeks and I kind of panicked and was like, we need to do a membrane sweep. I don't want to like walk into the hospital. I actually like, have to be there. And part of me thinks like maybe that might have, I don't know. I'll never know. But then the second one we decided to do at home. And that was a great experience. That one was beautiful as well. And then the third one, I had stitches with my first two, not major tearing, but with my third one, I was like, I do not want to push this baby out. People talk about breathing the baby out. I don't want to push. I don't want any stitches. And so we had the same midwife that I had with my first. She had left the birth center and started her own practice. So we were lucky to have her again. And it was interesting. I feel like having her like left the birth center, she just became like a totally different midwife. Where it was very much just like, almost like maybe she was following like more protocols there. Mm-hmm. And I felt like it was very much like this very like collaborative, like, well, do you want to do the glucose test? Okay, well, you don't have to. And like, you know, she gave me like everything I felt like was my choice. And so I realized we came through this birth. He was actually born on his due date, which is like not very common, which was cool. And so I went through that whole pregnancy and I never had one cervical check. It was just like there was just so much trust like between her and me. And I had done a pelvic floor session. I did a few prior, and they were, you know, they helped me kind of like know, like, okay, on your hands and knees, this is a great position for you. Like, this is where your pelvic floor is like most relaxed right now. So I was on my hands and knees. My knees were like hurting by the end, but I was like, I don't want to move. This is like the best position.
You need those like little foam pads. I actually have them in my doula bag, and I would bring them to every birth. And if the mom didn't use them, I would use them kneeling like next to her. But you can get them. Okay, so I know this is totally a tangent, but I just have to, like, little tip for everybody out there pregnant. Go to the I think I bought them at the dollar
like the gardening,
store.
like little knee pads. Yes,
or to like even sit and give your toddler a bath. They're just like an inch thick, little knee pads. That is the most used item in my doula bag, you guys.
You know what? Now that you say the toddler bath, it's not too late for me. I'm gonna.
That's too late. Go get them. Go get them.
You'll be able to use them. Yeah. So I mean, that morning, it was funny because I had never lost a mucus plug before, which I did over the weekend. So in my mind, I'm like, oh, this birth is happening right now. And I didn't know it could be a couple days still. And so I was just like getting so antsy, and I wasn't even on 40 weeks yet. So I went to the chiropractor and the acupuncturist. I'm like, okay. And I felt better, like in a better headspace. And then I woke up on Monday morning and I was like, oh, there's like a little bit happening, but like nothing crazy. And so then we had an appointment that day already at 1:30 for her to come just check on me. And then I was like, well, I think things are picking up a little bit. I don't know. And so then she had me download this app that she could watch in real time, like all the waves. So I'm just timing it. And she's like,
cool.
Yeah, which was really great. I know.
What app was that?
Okay. You know, I still have it because I didn't want to delete like the birth pattern yet. I'm not ready.
What a cool idea. Like, you don't have to, she could just check in anytime.
Yeah. It's just called contraction timer.
Oh, okay.
And so, and then I shared the live stream with her. Yeah. So she was watching and she's like, well, things are picking up and they're pretty steady. I'm going to come over when they're 5 minutes apart. And I was like, okay. I'm like, I don't know. So I texted my friends, that all came to my mother's blessing. They all had candles that they were going to light. And I was like, I think that it's happening today. Like, I'm not really sure. Like, it's pretty like easy right now. And then my midwife ended up showing up right at 1:30, right on time for her appointment. And then I was like, yeah, it was getting more intense. Like, I felt like I had to like breathe through them. This is my first time using like the birth combs. I love the birth combs.
Oh, nice.
It gave me something like to do. Like, my hands were actually like sore the next day from taking them in. And then things just like progressed. And one of my best friends came over and she did like birth photography. And it got to this point. It was funny. It reminded me a lot of my first birth. And I was like, there was a point where it actually felt like a little bit painful, but I knew that I could do it. And I remember you said this in your course. I was like, I never said this hurts, or I never said I can't. I was always like, this is getting hard. I know I can do it. I don't want to do this anymore, but I know it's almost over. I know that I can do this. And I never said I can't do it. And I never said like, this hurts. I just kept saying, oh, this is getting really hard. And really that part was such a short time. I mean, she got there at 1:30 and he was born at 4 p.m. And I really feel like it was like the last hour that I was like, this is getting so hard. And I was like, is this transition? And she's like, yes. I'm like, okay, I can do this.
It's so mental, right? Like, if you think, oh my gosh, it's this hard now and I have 10 more hours to go, you're going to spiral out. But if and your language is so important and what you're saying and your thoughts, like if you're claiming like, oh, this hurts, this is so painful, you're going to focus on that. All your energy goes into that. But if you're like, no, this is hard, and it is hard work.
It is
like,
hard.
Your body goes, you convince your brain and it's like, oh yeah, it's hard,
but I can do this.
We can do this.
Yeah, and that's the thing is like you can't even let yourself start to tip over that edge of like I can't do this, because then you're gonna spiral and then it's gonna just, I don't know, the whole thing's gonna fall apart and it's gonna get really
and you can
bad.
feel
like,
when you get close to that edge, right? Like
yes.
And then you got to know enough to pull yourself back. Okay, focus. Like I love that you took it all to heart. And so did it feel like different than your other births, or like what helped the most?
I feel like really the mindset. I mean, the mindset was so important for all of them. But like you said, it was catching the wave. Like you talked about that in the course too. And I really remember that of like catching it right before, like as it's going up, before it gets intense. Peak.
Yeah.
And just focusing and then knowing, that kind of like really just, there's like a very short, because it, comes up and then it comes down, but there's a very short spot where it's actually like really hard. And then otherwise it's just kind of coming or it's going and it's not that bad. But, I mean, my husband is like the idea. I feel like he needs to coach like men birth partners. He is such a fixer in normal life, but like at birth, he's just so present of just being like, I'm just here. And so this is the first one that he caught the baby. I wanted him to catch the baby on the first two, but I was just like, oh my God, this is so hard. Don't leave me. And so this time he got into the tub. He was able to catch the baby. Oh. The baby was born with a veil.
In call?
Yeah. So he kind of it was like his head came out totally intact. And then as his body then his body just shot out after, it kind of broke after that.
Yeah.
And then my older two kids were there. So my son was 7 and my daughter was 3. And my son announced it was our first surprise baby. I've never done that before, but we already had a boy and a girl. So I was like, whatever.
Perfect time to do a surprise.
Yeah, we'll just do it. And so my son got to announce the gender to everybody, which was so fun. So it was another boy. And it was just really cool. My daughter's only 3, so she probably won't have very specific conscious memories of it, but I know that they've seen what just a normal physiologic birth is. It's like they were a part of it. The baby came out, the baby started nursing. They just think it's so normal. They don't. And then so many of I feel like once you're a home birther, you find your community of other home birth friends. So they're just it's like, oh yeah. Daddy, their baby was the sister was born at home when she was at the birth too. It's just not a big deal. They just think it's so normal. And
it's a normal part of life, which it is. Yeah,
it is. It's just normal.
Now you said this was your best birth yet. What made it unique or better?
I think just part of it was just having the experience of just knowing, having the previous 2 births of just, there's also the confidence with experience that went into it of just being I've done this before. It's going to be hard. I know I can do it. So there was that going into it, which if you're going into this first time, I'm sorry. That's, I can't.
There's a learning curve.
I know that doesn't help.
Curve, yeah.
That piece doesn't help. But I think having my kids there, having them be a part of the experience is the best. But I think, just being so confident and just feeling like I really had all these tools, especially in your course too. It was such a good refresher. It was the horse limbs. I had the cones. I had the TENS machine. I felt like I had a lot of options. And it's really, I think with every birth, it's just the mindset. Like people were asking like, what was the number one thing? And like, really, it's just like, if you're going to work on anything, work on your mind. And I felt like I was so prepared up. Like I was nonstop on all my walks, like listening like to your podcast or like, Dr. Stu or whoever, like all the birth podcasts. And then maybe like the last 4 weeks, I was like, I'm ready. Like I'm just now in a place where I started listening to like funny podcasts and things that just make me laugh. And I focused on things that just like made me feel, I'm not doing any more like research or like learning. I'm just going to watch Gilmore Girls and like enjoy myself. So that was the first time that I did that, of just focus on enjoyment. So I felt like going into it of just, I'm just along for the ride. Like
I love that energy shift. Like it feels so good as you describe that, because I see so many women like still in that energy of like, I have to learn it all. I have to prepare for everything, every possible scenario. And what if this and what if that? And they have 100 questions, and there's nothing wrong with that. And we all go through that phase of learning. Yeah. But I love that you reach that point of confidence to then sink into the like trust and the enjoyment of birth. Like, and I tell my clients this, I'm like, you can enjoy your birth. Like you can, and some of them have really great births. Like one client now was like, I had a great birth. It was great, but I want to enjoy it this next time. I want to have it be easy. And I'm like, I love that. Like you can, if you're, whatever energy you're cultivating, especially in that last trimester or the month or two before, is really the energy you're going to bring into your birth room.
Yeah. And I want people to know too, like you can enjoy something and it can also be hard at the same time, because our culture is so averse to like discomfort. Oh, it's too hot. Oh, it's too cold. Oh, it's this. I don't want to experience pain. I don't want to have like discomfort. Like we're so focused on like being comfortable all the time. And you can enjoy it and it can also be hard. Like I enjoyed it. It was also very hard. But
birth labor is hard work, whether it's painful or not. You're going to experience intense moments. And when you're not afraid of that, you're welcoming that in, your body like knows what to do. It doesn't panic. It doesn't tighten and tense and create more pain. It just, you just sink into that zone, that flow state. Yeah.
And then just think about the feeling after of like, I just did that.
Yes.
I did that. I trusted myself and I like, there was the fire and I chose to like walk through it and be like, and I did it. And now like no one can take that away from you.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that. I love that. And that I believe so much in like the kind of birth experience you have is going to also impact your postpartum, like in a major way. Like there's so many things to do to make prepare for a better postpartum. And I love the focus on the nutrition and the meals and the warm foods and the call to rest. And like also knowing like how you do your birth and your pushing phase especially is going to contribute to like how much healing your body has to do in the postpartum. Did you experience any changes there with like the pushing phase and how that impacted postpartum?
Yeah, this was the first birth that I did not push the baby out. And that was something I really went into this birth being like, I'm going to just let the baby come out. And I thought I was going to be I'm not a quiet birther. That is just not who I am. But I thought I'm just going to like breathe the baby out. That I did not silently, but I did not, the baby just came out and they were like, oh, the head's coming out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like I'm not pushing. It was just like coming out. And then they're like, oh, they're like, there's the ears. It's almost, I'm like, and in my mind, I'm like, how can this baby's head like not be out yet? I feel like this has been going on for so long. And then his head came out and then his body just like, it just like shot out and just like it just came out, whereas like I felt like I had to like really like work so hard to like push the other ones out. And it wasn't like I was like, oh, you're 10, start pushing. Like I felt like, I don't know, it just felt different. But this one, it just like it just came out and I had no stitches for the first time.
Wow, that's amazing. Your body, it is incredible. It knows exactly how to do it when we allow it the time to do that and to bring that baby down, which is like one of the things I teach, as you know, and like, I love that you're bringing this up because it's also back to the energy. Like, are we going to, do we need to be in that state of having to push the baby out? And yes, there are, like, my first and second were much more like that. Like, I put in so much more work and energy into pushing. Whereas with my third, it was like very similar to you. Like, my body just did it. And I'm like, oh, there's an easier way.
There's another way.
There's another way.
And honestly,
tell people.
And like, you did not pay me to say this, but I've done a lot of different birth prep courses, and I wish I would have had yours the first time around, because it was such practical, like tangible information, and with the spiritual and the energetic component too, that I felt like I was like, okay, I'm watching this course, and yes, I've done this before, but I felt so like prepared. Like, I felt so like I already trusted my body, but I like needed that refresher because it had been, a couple years since I had my last baby. And I got everything that I needed from that.
That makes me so happy. Thank you for sharing. Oh, I love it. It all comes together. Like, how we take care of ourselves, how we trust, how we surrender, how we go through that labor process, the thoughts in our mind, what's coming up for us, how we prepare for the postpartum. Like, it's all a big package, and one thing influences the other. How we do one thing is how we do everything.
Totally. Yes. I love that quote.
Yeah. So and we learn each time. Like, don't beat yourself up if you're listening to this going, oh my gosh, I wish I knew this. Like, women tell me that all the time. I wish I knew you where were you when I had my babies? And I'm like, I was probably having babies. I don't know. Or I was like, I don't know how old you are. Depends. But it's like each time you learn, and each time birth can get better when you apply what you know and you choose consciously, oh, this is what I'm going to believe for this time. And I love even when you have an amazing birth, it can still be even better. And like, what God does and what you can believe for to happen. Like you said, I wanted to not tear, and you didn't tear. Like, it's just so cool how I feel like we're continuously expanding what is possible and normal in birth, and how good it can really be. And you're taking that revelation and applying it to postpartum so beautifully. Because I so believe that postpartum doesn't have to be like, it is like birth, hard. It is like the most vulnerable time, the most vulnerable season. You are the giving of yourself and sacrificing so much of yourself as a new mom, your energy, your literal like giving of life and calories from your body, and lack of sleep, and so many intense demands. I also believe it can be the most blissful, like sacred time period.
Oh yeah, I like it. I enjoyed it so much.
Me too. People think I'm crazy. I'm like, I would have more babies just to go through, to go through the postpartum, and they look at me like I'm a clown. Like, what planet are you on? They're like, I hate the postpartum. I'm like,
I like enjoy it. Yeah,
I need a baby right now. Like, just let me snuggle them in bed and breastfeed, and someone can bring me food.
Bring me food. Oh my gosh, the second and the third one, like, I enjoyed so much. I know I'm like, I can't wait to like be postpartum again, and especially like if you're wanting to get back to doing stuff, just know like I kept thinking like once I get back to doing stuff, like with my other kids, I'm like, that's a lot of work down there. I don't want to do that. Like, once I'm back, I'm back. Like, I gotta elongate this period, because once they see, my husband or my kids see me like doing stuff, they're going to now have the expectation that I do stuff now.
Right. So be very careful. Once you come back.
You might wish that you would have taken a little longer vacation.
Exactly. You'll never get this time back, Mama.
No, you won't. Because once you get back into life, you're back into life.
Unless your body's like, wait, full stop, and it forces you to rest, which we don't want that for you. We want you to be listening the whole time. And that skill of listening to your body, like, it's taken me so many years to develop that, whether it's for birth, but not applying it to every area of life. Like, what foods my body needs right now, what kind of energy or exercise or movement it feels good. And I just love that you incorporate all of those like principles, like these principles from like Western A. Price and Ayurvedic and Eastern medicine that are really, truly just like how our bodies thrive best in the most like natural environment, given the most natural raw materials, what helps us live and thrive the most. And if we can partner with that, it's just like in birth, there's a physiology, there's a blueprint, there's a way God created our bodies. Yes. There are foods that our bodies thrive on in the postpartum season, and there are foods that deplete us or bring an energy that's not what we need in this season. And so I love that you're incorporating those natural principles into the foods that you make for women, the recipes that you teach in empowering women to prepare for this season that is so short and so sacred and so vulnerable, but can be so beautiful.
Yes, yes.
Tell us about your meal service, because I want women to know that this is there. I did not have anything like this.
Yeah, I know, right?
I'm talking about like, where were you when I was in my postpartum? Girl, I wish I had you as my best friend.
I know. We were both struggling on the first ones and then creating these things, and now here we are.
And then you're like, okay, we're going to do that differently next time.
Yeah.
So my goodness, if you're going to invest money into one thing, ladies, like let it be your postpartum, like support. Get support. And one of the easiest, most like no-brainer things is like having meals prepared in advance.
Yes.
I remember that meal train was like my saving grace. For 2 weeks, I'm like, people are bringing me food. And then when it ended, I was like, wait, where did you go? Where's my free food coming to my bedrest?
I know. And I feel like you need it for like a solid 40 days. So you can order from us. Like we use organic ingredients, pasture raised eggs and grass fed meat and all that kind of stuff. And it's all following the principles of like, the soups and the stews. We have like a rice pudding that's really popular. We have a hearty sausage stew that's really popular. So there's that. But like, even if you can register for gift cards from our website.
Girl, that would be my entire registry.
I know. It's funny. Like I'll like log into our Shopify every once in a while, and I'm like, I think someone's having a baby shower today, because it'll be like a bunch of gift cards, like all in a row to the same person.
Talk about the best gift. Like, forget the onesies. Give me mama meals, ladies.
Yes. So then I tell people, if you are doing a meal train, like you could. Like, there's not like, you can do one, it's like, I would try to combine everything that you can, but do a meal train. And then in your meal train, I would just say like, I'm looking to have, warm, soups and stews, like that's, whatever. Like you can kind of try to guide people in the way that you want them to go, of bringing you like oatmeals and porridges or things like that. And then I also tell people, like, if you have some recipes that you find like on Pinterest, or we actually have like a free recipe guide that you can download with like a ton of recipes that you can cook yourself. I would print out those recipes and like pass it like 1 or 2 out to like each family. I'd be like, hey, can you cook this for me? And then freeze it into like smaller portions. And then now your freezer is stocked.
Or ladies, like download her free recipe guide and upload it to your meal train. Like,
that's a great idea.
Like here, click right here.
Yeah, that is a new idea. Yes, that is a great. Like you could like probably link the PDF.
Done.
That
if you need some help, right?
Okay, now my like wheels are turning.
No-brainer. We're helping each other out, girl.
So I'm like, weddings and babies are really like the 2 times in life that people are looking to just like shower you with gifts and things. So people want to help. And they want to help in the way that you want it. So at least just guide them in the direction. Like people want to bring you a meal, and they want to bring you a meal. They don't want to like spend all this time cooking something that you're going to be like, oh, I didn't even want that. Like they want to give you what you want. So just point them in the right direction.
I feel like you're hitting something that I wanted to bring up, because I felt like we need to not be afraid to ask for what we want and need. This is especially in the postpartum, especially for your birth, because for those of us who are people pleasers, like myself included, I'm a recovering
Me too.
pleaser. Like,
I say that too.
I didn't know how to do that, like for so many years. And you're absolutely right. People want to help. They want to shower you with gifts. They want to support you. Most people. Some people just want to come and hold the baby. Whatever. They can wait. If they're not going to show up with a hot meal, you can wait 2 weeks, baby. Like until after. But you're absolutely right. And some people don't know how to help, but they really want to help. And they just need to be guided. And we need to not be afraid to ask for exactly what we want. and just let one of those items on your registry be Mama Meals, because girl, I don't want to see you cooking for 40 days.
No.
I will come to your house and knock on your door and tell you to get back in bed.
Okay. I love that you talked about the accepting help, because that is something that I've been working on this one. And it, I will tell you, it is like a muscle to flex. Every time someone came over and said, what can I bring you? I would, even if I didn't really need anything, I would just flex the muscle and be like, oh, can you bring me like a hot chai? Or like, oh, I'm going to Sprouts. I'm like, oh, can you bring me a perfect bog? I loved the salted caramel flavor. And I was at the grocery store, and it was my first time at the grocery store with all 3 kids. And then they're like, do you need help out with your groceries? And I automatically went to say, oh no. I'm like, oh, you know what? Yeah, I will take help. And the more that I have been in this place of receiving and accepting help, the more people are offering it to me. Wow. Because I think the universe, like, God knows that I'm open to it.
Yeah, you're energetically, you're like, you're pulling it in.
Yes,
you're open to it.
I'm open to it, and I've accepted it. And I was at Costco the other day, and the guy behind me said, hey, do you need help loading your groceries onto the belt? And I was like, sure, thank you so much. Like, yes, I can do it, but doesn't mean that I should or have to. Yeah. Like, I can accept help.
At Costco, even without kids. Like, that is a full-time workout to go to Costco.
I know. Like, it really is. So just know, like, the more that you accept it, and like, just start, if someone offers you, like, I would just challenge you to, like, think of something that they can do for you, because it's like a muscle.
Totally. I would even challenge you, mamas right now who are listening to this, like, as soon as this podcast episode ends, or while you're listening, to think of one thing you need right now in this present moment, and actually open your phone and text or call somebody to ask for that, to fill a need. Like you said, it could be as simple as like, pick up a chai tea latte, or it could be like, you know what, I really need childcare to go out on a date with my husband because we haven't had one in 2 months. Like, but activate it right now. And this is my teacher brain. Like, I'm all about, like, you learn something new, activate it right away. Like, flex that muscle and do it, and practice asking and receiving help. Just as a fun little, like, see, and then write us, tell us, comment on, comment on our post, DM Holly and me, and tell us what you asked for and what happened, because we would love to hear your stories.
Yes, I love that.
Amazing. So, this is all such good practical information and so many good reminders for women. Where can they find you if they want to learn more, or follow you, or sign up for your meal plan, your services?
So Instagram is where you'll find me. I'm in the DMs. It's eat.mamameals. And then our website is just mama-meals.com.
Awesome.
And
we'll put all that in the show notes. And for any...
And you have a discount code too, right?
Yes. I was just going to mention, for any of you guys listening today, if you use code PAINFREEBIRTH, you'll get $20 off your first purchase of Mama Meals. And I 100% recommend and endorse this program. Like, definitely anything you do to invest in your birth and postpartum experience, you will get back 100-fold. You will not regret that decision.
That is not, it's funny because people talk about, I'm like, I would never go into like, recommending people go into like credit card debt. But I'm like, I would never go into debt for a wedding, but I'm like, what? I mean, if you're going to go into credit card debt once in your life, it will be, postpartum is the only thing that I would like condone it for.
So give me all the meals, and the doula, postpartum doulas, and all the things, the herbs.
I'm not saying go into credit card debt. I'm just saying this is like the one thing in life that like you will not regret the investment.
Yes, because it's true what they say. If those first 40 days can impact the next 40 years, which is the whole principle of that book. Yes. How much are you impacting by supporting yourself? How strategic are you to support those first 40 days, knowing it's impacting the next 40 years? Like, that's a pretty good ROI, in my opinion.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Agreed.
So fully endorse it. Love it. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Your wisdom. It's been a pleasure. So, mamas, go check out her Instagram and her website. Connect with her, and we'll see you next week.